This one's gonna be different.
Good morning, sleepyheads.
Does he do it like super close, I guess?
Good morning, sleepyheads.
Good morning, sleepyheads. We're gonna make a vlog. I don't know how to vlog. Let's get hench. Oh, spoilers.
Problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and
So yesterday, Adam Markowitz sent out a tweet that kicked off a great discussion, I think. Here's the tweet. Aside from backing a big truck full of Ben Franklin's up to Jason's home, where does an accounting firm go to hire someone in-house to improve processes? Is that like a nerdy admin type of role or just some consultant? Or is that just my job asking for me? How do you find that person? I think everybody's talking about that person right now. I know a few firms that have made like full-time automation hires. Maybe you're not quite there yet, but what does that role look like? Is that like an admin's job? Is it an accountant's job? There's this perception of like who's the youngest, like most IT savvy person, like they just kind of become that. But I think there's two questions here really. First, how do you know what to even work on? Like how do you even know what you need? Like what's next? There's always 100 things you can do, right? But how do you even know what the lowest hanging fruit is? Do you even have that perspective? So how do you know what to work on? And then two, whose job is it to do it? Is it somebody you hire? The right thing to do next is so contextual because all firms are so different, right? I think an external like third party can give you good perspective and maybe point out some stuff that may be obvious that you're blind to. But so much of what would inform what should be done next is also organizational knowledge. What do you know about your clients? What are clients like clamoring for right now that they don't have? That's where your in-house people are gonna be really good at finding that stuff. But it doesn't really require expertise, like automation expertise. And then the second question of where to find that person. If it's me, honestly, I'm really quick to hire this stuff out. So yes, I can do maybe more than some people, but I'm also aware of so much more that's out there that I can't do. That my first go-to is like pulling in contract help on specific work. So if I'm not your solution, if I would be the first one to tell you I can't even do all that myself, does it exist? And how reasonable is it to think an admin or an accountant is gonna be able to do this thing for you? I do think it's easy to say, I just have to find person X. I think we do this in a lot of different areas. Or sometimes it's easier to imagine the hypothetical like unicorn person that's out there that will solve this problem for you completely. The question is, does that person exist? Or is it just easier to fill up that theoretical person with everything that you need right now? So who's the right person to hire? Okay, all that's well and good, but answer the question. Who's the right person to hire? How do you make it happen? Show me those muscles. So if you're following on Twitter, you know I've been through the most ridiculous dishwasher saga. I've been without a dishwasher about 4 months, just from some ridiculous stuff with Home Depot. And we finally got a replacement 2 days ago. Big day for our family, but I've been putting it through a series of tests, series of challenges.
Ooh. It tried. One side's pretty clean.
Cream cheese one's good.
Where was the cream cheese one?
That's the one right next to it.
Oh, looks like a little bit of peanut butter got on the fork. Or that could have been
It
peanut
may
butter
just
on
be
the
the
fork.
reflection. Oh, jeez.
Okay, you know what?
It's doing all right so far.
Daddy,
Huh?
what's that wiping up there?
This button calls Mom. This button calls Logan. Hey, you wanna go get Finn up with me? Let's do it.
Let's do a high five.
Thanks.
Daddy, you know I can do
Somersaults on the stairs?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a good idea. I'm gonna ask you the question. Just answer one way or the other, okay? You consent to your likeness being used on video? You do? Yep, I'm getting you homemade bread, okay? Medium boy. 108. Next up.
Ice cold.
Yep.
Jason?
Oh yeah. Have a good day.
You too.
You gotta climb up to it. So there's always a million things you can do, right?
Yeah?
Like a bottomless pit of new stuff you can take on. How do you know what to do next? How do you pick? Like, what's the highest impact thing? How do you prioritize? Like, how did you decide what to do next in any given point in time? Or did you just kind of like roll out of bed and go whatever way the day took you?
I think in the beginning it did. And you're putting out fires, and then you determine what's going to be best for your company and your clients. It's putting the clients first. So you focus on doing all the things to make the clients and your employees happy, to drive.
That's a bunch of things though. How do you pick the one thing that you do next?
For me, it was make my employees happy, because when they're happy, their clients are happy.
Right.
So I focused on making the employees happy within a reasonable scope, and just doing the small things and being human with them and connecting makes them happy, and then that makes their clients happy. Gives the business as a whole just a good, positive vibe.
So I can relate to what Heather shared, but it also adds another question to me. So her first job was the person putting all the fires out. I can relate to that. But then she said her main focus was keeping employees happy. So that was the hat that she wore in her business. But who wears all the other hats, and whose job is it to develop processes? Like, is that a dedicated person? Like, is that a collective thing? I definitely feel like it's one of those things where unless it's somebody's job, nobody ever does it. So who can you point to in your business where they need to be the one thinking about this stuff? Does that need to be a specific person? Probably. So as with every messy question, it's like there's a bunch of messy questions rolled up in there. So this morning we talked about, it's really, how do you know what to do next? Where do you find the person to make it happen? And whose job should it be to make it happen? Is it the job of a specific person in your business? Is it a collective thing? Is that like a consultant's job? Got that. It's almost nap time feeling. Getting close. Can you get the mic out of shot? I'm just kidding. That's a feather duster. She's dusting. Big boy. I think we're baking now. It's hot. Hot. Nap time. Okay, everyone, listen up. Here's the plan. It's nap time. We've got 2 hours. This is the only 2 hours of the day where you're both allowed to be an adult and still sober. First up, bathe. Check. Second, final revisions on the 2K Q&A video. Third, build a cheeky automation. Fourth, figure out this whole hiring and what to do next thing and make this video actually useful. So we're doing the 2,000 subscriber Q&A video. I don't edit most of my videos. I've got an editor. Some of the stuff I will, like some of the montagey, like trailery stuff I'll do myself, but 90% of it is done by my magnificent editor. But most of this is just a ton of back and forth in Slack. We'll go through 2-3 revisions on each video. Okay, video done. Let's make a cheeky little automation. So I'm doing this thing called Roast My Firm. Anybody can kick in anonymized information about their firm. I'm gonna share that info online, solicit some like tips from people online, and then make a video around that firm. So like tell you everything about the firm, their stack, their workflow, all that stuff. What would be my advice for next steps? Kind of like what we're talking about in this video. It's a fun way to kind of open source some of this feedback, I think. And one of the things I'm gonna do is send kind of those firm profiles anonymously to the thought leadery type people in our profession. So I send that info to them, don't skew their opinion or anything, and say, hey, give me like a 90-second overview of what you would advise this firm to do next. But the way I'm collecting this information is an Airtable form. So how do I get from an Airtable form, with sometimes that's like a bunch of data, they shared a bunch of information. How do I get that into a format I can send to those people to share their thoughts? So what I'm gonna do, never done this before, I'm gonna use Google templates, which are new to me. I learned about it from Chad Davis on our automation podcast. I'm gonna take the data in each of these form entries, generate a Google Doc with them from a template using Make, create a PDF, and then save that PDF back to Airtable. Then I can use that PDF anytime I need to share the details of that Roast My Firm. So we'll see. I'm gonna time this, because I think there's a perception that like, oh, I don't have a half day to burn on an automation, when usually this stuff's like, honestly, pretty quick. Famous last words, I haven't actually done this before, but we'll see. And then I'll show you how it works at the end. So here's the table of the Roast My Firm data. I added two things, a generate PDF column. This is a button you can click on, and then a PDF column for the output. So now it's generating these PDF files that include all of the data from each of the submissions. So people submit via this Roast My Firm form, type of work, specialization, what's your role, what's your team makeup, cadence, sales and marketing, all that stuff. Quite a bit of information, and some people like give you a lot in there, which is great, but I gotta package that up in something that I can give to someone, and so now I've got this PDF. Remember at the beginning when I said it doesn't always take a half a day? It doesn't always take a half a day. But if I were to guess how long that was gonna take, I would have thought like 20 minutes. Ended up being like 50. Here's the thing though, next time I encounter that issue, if I gotta get something from Google Drive to Airtable, it's gonna be super fast. That was like a 20-minute process, building out the Make automation, but even building out the document template from scratch, that was all the longer that really took. Okay, so let's make sense of this whole what do I do next thing. We've got three issues. One, how do you know what to even do next? Two, how do you find the unicorn that's gonna get you there? And three, whose job is it to actually make this stuff happen? Is that still my job? Do you find the unicorn and then that's the unicorn's job? In the case of my wife that we talked about, her focus was on like caring for the employees. But how do you put that stuff alongside the client experience? Making sure the company's making money, overall strategy, small workflow things. Who is looking at all of those things and making a list? Start here and do these things. I feel like you could like spiral and think about this all day. Here's like the most straightforward framework I've been able to come up with, and a few tidbits that manufacture some structure around this. So 3 steps to this framework. 1, prioritizing what to do next. It needs to be a combination of several things. It needs to be a combination of what your team internally thinks is important. Nobody knows how you work and your clients better than you. But secondarily, you need an external input there. You need a consultant, an advisor, even a peer who understands your business, who can come in and help you prioritize any low-hanging fruit that they see with what your team thinks you need. Because you're gonna have blind spots. So that outside party is gonna help you with your blind spots. You're gonna have your own list of what you think you should be doing. And then you'll come together with that outside party and prioritize those things together. You really need some sort of advisor. If you don't have anybody speaking into your firm outside of your internal firm groupthink, you're gonna have big old blind spots. But the flip side of that, where that person drives all of the decision making, honestly, I think advising firms is so nuanced because every firm is different, every set of clients is different. The wants and desires of firm owners are completely different. So like no external consultant is gonna have a perfect roadmap for every single firm. So it's gotta be a marriage of what makes sense internally with general advice from an expert, bringing that stuff together to have a prioritized list of here's what we're gonna do. So if there's a tidbit to take from that, you need somebody to talk to at least quarterly. If it's scary to get a consultant, even just ask a peer. Honestly, that's better than nothing. But if you don't have anyone scratching that itch for you right now, you're absolutely gonna have blind spots. So that's the first thing. List of priorities, great. And that's a first step, like that's a huge first step. Just knowing what to do is honestly half the battle. Second, validate your plan with a bunch of other people. This is where community is gold for me. Whatever you're planning on doing, there's 100 other people who have already done it. And wouldn't you love to hop in that time machine and see what happened for them, what their advice would be, whether they were adopting the tech that you were looking at, whether they tried this thing and it created some sort of issue they didn't anticipate? I want to hear 50 of those stories before I go through the work of actually making this change. Validated decision making. There is nothing more valuable. Myself, man, I've got so many horror stories about this. We changed our practice management system like 4 years ago. It was a bad decision. The decision was made based on what the salespeople told us, because at that time I didn't have any community. We didn't have anybody else to talk to. So you're literally going off the advice of the people who are incentivized to just get you to buy in. And that's how like most of the decisions in this profession are made, which is nuts. And that creates like years of chasing your tail. You made the wrong pick, you're back to square one. You made the wrong pick, you're back to square one. And when so many of these things are on year-long cycles, that can be so frustrating. So hugely important. Step number 2, validate that decision making. Have a trusted group of people where you can put that out there, where you have permission to pick the brains of a bunch of other people that did the same thing as you, because they're out there. And if you're like too proud to ask them how it went or think you're gonna do it right, you don't trust how they did it, like that's so naive. So go out and find the people who have already done that. Third, find somebody to implement it. So I gave a talk the other day on how I hire for automation stuff. And it's almost all experts on contract. It's not me doing the stuff myself. Bad example, I just did a thing myself. For simple stuff like that, I will do it myself. But the reality is, if you're a firm runner, like you've got no business spending a half day trying to automate a thing or weeks on a bigger project. That's not your job. Like you gotta pull somebody in for that. And on the flip side, if you got people being accountants all day that can sometimes be automators, they're never gonna be anywhere near as good as the people that just automate stuff all day. So I'm going out, I'm looking at contractors who are experts in specifically the type of tech that I need to implement this thing. I'll put a link to this talk that I gave down below, but basically the idea is you need to understand the different types of tech that will solve the specific problem you're talking about. Choose the most robust one, because there's a bunch of different tools that will do the same thing, from Zapier to RPA, all these different things, but some are much more reliable and cheap to implement than others. So identify the type of tech you should use, and then find the expert in that type of tech. Go out to Upwork, go out to Fiverr. There are such good people out there who do this stuff all day. And no matter how good I think I am, or how good I think that person I have on my team who's like slightly dangerous with this stuff, we are never gonna be able to touch the people that just do this all the time. Now, what's really exciting and liberating about this? You don't need that unicorn. You're hiring out of a massive pool of people. Some of them aren't gonna work out, but over time you'll find the winners, like you'll build up that automation team Rolodex, find the people you like working with, and they're gonna be available when you need them. Now, it's still valuable to have automation expertise across your whole team because those people will be better at identifying things. They can put together the simple solutions where it's maybe not worth pulling in a third party. But if you put all your eggs in the hypothetical, find the perfect unicorn basket, I'm that unicorn. If I were just gonna stop what I do and automate for people all day, I'm telling you, I can't do everything that's out there. I would go hire people. So I think where that gets me to is don't go looking for the unicorn. Look for people with like a comfort level with basic automation and help get everybody up to like a base comfort level. But is it realistic that you're gonna have that person in-house that can do everything? Probably not, because they're doing accounting all day. Unless they're like a full-time automator, you're a big enough firm where all they do is that stuff all day long. But like, even in that case, they probably have a very specific type of automation expertise. They can't do everything. It's just like tax. There's too much for one person to be the expert in all things. I think that's what makes the most sense to me. And I like it because it's actionable. Find an external advisor to help me identify what I need to do next. Find a community where I can validate that decision with people, and then understand what type of expert I need to go hire to help me do that thing. I'm gonna keep hiring accountants. I'm gonna keep training them to like a base level of savviness with automation things. But at the end of the day, when it comes to doing the big mission critical things, I'm gonna go out and hire an expert. I'm gonna pick somebody up on contract, low commitment. They're gonna come help me with that specific workflow issue I had. That's what I'm doing. I don't know if it's the right answer. I'd be interested to know what you think. Drop a comment below. You wanna know what my next stuff is? I'm changing practice management systems.
Oh, Jason, what did you pick?
I got a short list of the stuff we're doing next, but 2 hours are up. So when we go through that short list, I may not be sober, but hey, who's keeping score?
If you train like a champion, you'll be a champion.
Dada.
Done, boy. Green boy? Blue boy. Food coloring? Sleepy time. So if you're so smart, Jason, how do you do it? Oh man, deciding what to do has been really hard. Honestly, last 2-3 years, that's probably been the hardest thing to navigate. If you know about my firm, it's an 80-year-old tax firm. It's like I bought an old wooden sailing vessel and it came with a crew of like 500 people. It's hard to change direction. There's a lot of, got like 1,500 clients, 35 people. It's a lot of inertia. There's just, everything's happening. Nobody necessarily knows why it's happening, but it's happening just like it always has happened in the past. It just kind of keeps going, keeps chugging along. And anytime you're gonna change the direction of that many people, staff and clients, you gotta have a really good reason. You gotta get people really excited about it. It's a lot of bloody work. However long you think it's gonna take longer. But the same rules apply, so prioritize what to change, taking into account internal and external input, validate the change, find the people to implement the change. So deciding on the change, I feel like we've got a pretty good feedback loop with the staff who are never short of opinions. So we definitely don't have any problem gathering and organizing internal feedback and what we think we should prioritize. I don't have like a consultant, like an external person, but what I do is talk with like several firm owners a week, every single week, and I'm super transparent about what I do, and I feel like I'm able to pick up a lot from those conversations. And also just learning about other people's firms I think gives me good perspective. But no, technically I guess I don't have that like consultant type person. But that's how we've prioritized our internal feedback, me putting that up against what I'm seeing from all the other firms I'm talking to and the interesting things that they're doing. 2, validating that stuff, man, I've got such an unfair advantage there. So I run an accountant community where that's like the whole purpose of the community is coming together and sharing the decisions we're making and fleecing other people for ideas, like literally seeing their live setups, like sharing all this private stuff that you don't normally get to share. I am so big on validating decisions before you make them, even if it takes twice as long so that you never have to make the same decision again. Like that's a mistake I've made in the past. You do this big thing and you're like, nope, that wasn't right, and it's gonna take years to get back. So validation through YouTube, through Twitter, through my account community. I feel like I've got a really unfair advantage there. 3rd, who's gonna implement it? Depends on the thing. If it's a super techie thing, every change has a champion, and that varies from being admins to being accountants. But whether they're doing it themselves or not, usually they aren't, they're the ones making sure that it happens. So do you need more resources to do it? Do you need more people to do it? Do we need to bring in an external person to help us do it? We have an internal person that's in charge of making sure that happens. And as soon as they know it's not going to happen, they got to escalate that and we figure out a plan. When it's workflow and automation oriented, like I shared, I'm very quick to pull in a third party. Even if you think you know how to do that thing, there's somebody that sits there and does that thing all day, every day, and they do that thing better than you. Building automations is still development, and there's 100 different ways to do the same thing, and their way is gonna be better than your way. So as much as I can do a lot of this stuff myself, if it gets beyond a certain complexity level, I'm very quick to pull in expertise. And honestly, that's so easy. It is such a hack to get used to hiring off of Upwork, off Fiverr, like finding talented people that you can hire on contract. I think accounting firms usually frame things through the lens of employment because it's what we know, but employment is so bloody risky. Think about a 2-person firm hiring a 3rd full-time person. You're like betting 50%, 33% of your workforce is just gonna work out. And most hires don't work out. They take a humongous amount of time to train, get up to speed. It takes years, but we never hire people on contract. If I hire automation people on contract, I can go through 5 of them until I find a really good one or a really good 2 or 3, and then we keep coming back to them. But I love doing that stuff on contract. And right now, there are way more no-code dorks out there who love this stuff and want to do more of it than there are people realizing how powerful it is looking to hire those folks. The price of Bubble developers and Zapier developers, it's gonna go through the roof in the next few years. as more people start wanting those freelancers. But right now, it's so easy to find them. They're not all good, but if you're doing something mission critical, especially if you're able to hire offshore, like hire 2 or 3 of them. They'll do it different ways. You'll have more confidence in one and the others, and you'll feel better about the result. So because cost is like so low on a lot of these projects, I'll go offshore, I'll hire somebody on contract, and that's how the automation, like heavy lifting stuff gets done. We got an in-house person that's the champion making sure it happens, but we go out and hire the expertise we need. I did a whole talk on the hierarchies of different types of tech that you need to know about as a decision maker, not be an expert in, but just know they're there so that you hire the right expertise. I did a whole talk on that I'll link below. So how do you prioritize the stuff that you gotta do or even know where to look next? Do you have like a, that's not funny, it doesn't even make sense, I'm wearing a lav mic. Do you have a framework that you use? Also, if you aren't like on Twitter yet, you're missing out on so many of these good discussions. Thanks for stopping by. Is this weird? What do you think of vlogging? How do you feel about my deck? Let me know if you think we should do more vloggy type stuff like this in the future. Bye. Come say bye. Bye.